Hi there, Chris here with another quick tip for you all. In this video, we are going to take a look at using Citadel Contrast color on an Imperial Fist. So you can see here we have our Primaris Marine, and we're going to color him as an Imperial Fist. First, we're going to use some Xandri Dust. This is the Citadel spray. And basically what we're going to do is we are going to go for a bit of a pre-shade on this model. So really quickly here, I'm just going to lay down a nice even layer of primer onto the model. As you can see here, I work fairly quickly with the primer. Haha. And once that is set to dry, as you can see there, once we leave that to dry, we can come in and hit it with another color. Basically, we'll use the new rathbone. With this spray, we are going to spray this pretty much straight down at the model. So imagine pointing it straight down at the top of his head and just spraying right straight down at him. Here I changed the angle just ever so slightly just so I can get some of the top of the knees, everything like that. But otherwise, a fair amount is sprayed at the very top of the model, as you can see there. That is basically a pre-shade with the spray cans. Now, the whole reason for the Xandri Dust is so that we get slightly deeper tones because, again, with the contrast, it is a transparent color and it's designed to sit on top of very bright, but I wanted to know how it goes on with a slightly darker tone underneath. Not quite gray or black. Nazdrag Yellow is our color we're going to use for Imperial Fist. Now, this is for everybody who likes their Imperial Fists with a slight brown hue in the shadows. So I figured I'd give this a try. And so once that primer was fully dry, I come in and begin applying the contrast paint all over the surface. I'm using a shade brush or shade wash brush to apply this color, as I typically work with this brush when applying shade washes and such from Citadel. And so you can see I'm just simply scrubbing it into areas wherever I want it to build up, and otherwise I lay it on somewhat heavily so that it will creep into all the recesses and define all the edges and bring out all the detail, everything that we know and love about these Citadel contrast colors. That's basically what we're doing here. We're simply just going to move it around, you can see, and anywhere that it does pool up, I do wipe the excess away with the brush and continue to move the color around. But see, when you bring the color out fairly thin, you can see it goes to really nice warm yellow hues, and that's kind of what we want. And you can see overall, like initially when I was laying this down, I was like, oh, this is a little too brown, but we're going to work with it. And so you can see here, I'm simply just moving it around. Anywhere that it's too heavy, I just draw the excess out and, so it's not too heavily, of course. Set it aside, allow it to dry, and as you can see there, it's mostly dry. You can see some of the recesses are still look a little wet looking, but that's not going to affect what we're doing next. We're going to come in with some Uriel Yellow. You guessed it, we're going to use yellow. I'm going to apply a little bit to my palette here, and I'm going to use a small dry brush. And I'm going to begin just basically dry brushing the high points. Again, because of the spray we laid down, which gave us a bit of a zenithal type of pre-shade, we're going to allow that to work for us. So we're going to apply this dry brush on all the high points, as well as some of the edges around the panels and such. We don't want this too heavy. We just simply want to dry brush and bring out edges and really kind of high points as well. So I'll allow a little bit of the color to build on the top of the feet, as well as on the shoulder pads, top of the arm, and a little bit in the center point of the chest, a little bit on the face of the helmet, anywhere really you kind of see more of the brighter tones. Again, you can see how this is fairly brown feeling, but once I start throwing the yellow on, holy moly, it really begins to take shape and starts to feel a bit more like an Imperial Fist, which I think is the desired result here, obviously. So I was quite pleased with how it went so far. And again, this is, some people really do prefer their Imperial Fist kind of have these brown shadows and these darker tones in the recess here. I'm coming in just a little bit more yellow on those high points, a little bit on the backpack and on those little orbs of the engine nozzles and what have yous. But otherwise, that is it for the armor. So next, we're just going to finish off this model really quickly here. We're going to use some Contrast Black Templar. This is going to be for the bolt gun, the little canister doodad that's on his belt, and the eagle on his chest. And just for giggles, we'll do his hair as well. Could have done other little bits as well, like the little ribbing portions in between the armor bits, and of course the nozzles on his backpack as well. But I figured, I think you guys get the general idea here. And again, with the contrast, because we've already laid down that other layer of color with the yellows and the Nasdrag yellow, I should say, we want to be very, very careful when we're applying this to other areas of the model, because again, this black will sit right on top of those other colors very, very easily and will basically dominate what you see there. And so if you can't just simply come in with a yellow again and apply it on top, because of the transparency of these colors, the deeper color will show through. So just beware of that. So you got to be really, really careful when you're working around all the rest of the areas of the model. Next, we're going to come in with some Wildwood. This is a really great color. I like this. We're going to do all the little leather pouches and holster and things of that nature on this model. Again, you can see I'm trying to be very, very careful as I apply it to the model. If you're really, really fast and you do hit any other areas of the model, you can simply use a damp brush and just quickly pull that pigment off. Hopefully, if you do it fast enough, you'll do it before the color really has a chance to set into the rest of the model. Otherwise, yeah, you'll have to come back in with your base tones and build that highlight or base coloring up again. Gilliman Flesh is next, and as you guessed it, yeah, this is going to be for the head. We're going to apply this fairly generously on his head, and as you can see here, it's going to give us a nice deep dark tone, as you would expect. Again, it's just pretty generous just all around the model, and it just basically gives us all our highs and lows as well as the mid-tones, giving us a nice flesh tone look on the model. Once we're done with that, we're going to come in with the base color of rathbone. And with that, we are going to go around and potentially, if there was any errors we had made, we can correct them. But here I'm going to use them on the purity seals. So I'm basically going to pick the purity seals out as well as the seal itself. And you can see here's another seal up on his arm. And as I mentioned before, if there's any other areas that you want to clean up, or if you want to do the shoulder pad with another color, or anything of that nature, this would be the phase in which you would do it. I'm going to use Skeleton Horde for the purity seals, just to give me a nice light bone-ish kind of parchment color on those areas. So again, just like we were using a shade wash, we just simply apply it over that. Of course, after it's dry, thoroughly dry, and you can see just really quickly, it just gives us a nice little tone, gives us that aged parchment look. I figured that would be one of the fastest, easiest ways to accomplish that. Next is Flesh Terror's Red. You guessed it, this is going to be for the purity seals themselves, and just really quickly. And as you can see, I've been using the shade brush the entire time to do this entire model. So I haven't even have to change brushes. I just simply be very, very careful where I'm working with the colors, where I'm going into other areas, and be very, very deliberate. Don't rush it, but you can see how we can just simply work our way around the model. And so you can see once we set it aside, allow it to dry, we have a very good tabletop, I think, Imperial Fist, using just the contrast paints, with the sprays as well. But as you can see, it was relatively painless. This didn't really take entirely that long. I didn't time myself this time with this model, but it did not take long to get this far. And so definitely give it a try, folks, and stay tuned for the second video of this with an alternate scheme. Thank you for watching.